Hi, Beauty. Okay, this is part 2 of Rumpelstiltskin's daughter. Where we left off was that the king, the greedy king, had gotten word of this young woman that was coming into town with coils of gold, and so he is going to try to get her. So when she goes to town, they snatch her up, um, and when she goes into town, she brings the gold that her father has spun, and to get coins to buy the things that they might need. And this time, two of the king's guards were waiting for her. They got her in a carriage and were speeding toward the palace. And remember, on the way, what she saw broke her heart. Everywhere the fields lay barren, sickly children stood begging beside the road. Nobody in the kingdom had anything anymore, because the king had it all. And I made the editorial comment that that's too common even today. For example, in a video I saw yesterday about Saudi Arabia, that's what seems to be happening there as well. And here's a picture of some of the people along the road that don't have much and seem to be quite hungry. And there seems to be a turkey vulture. Let's see, now we're onward, and now here's the picture. And now let's read. Finally, they reached the palace. There were high walls around it and a moat full of crocodiles. Armed guards were everywhere, gnashing their teeth, clutching their swords, and peering about with shifty eyes. As the carriage went over the bridge and under the portcullis, the hungry people shook their fists at them. It was not a pretty sight. If I'm not mistaken, this is the portcullis. And there are the hungry people shaking their fists at them. It looks like there's the king or somebody watching from the side. Rumpelstiltskin's daughter was taken at once to the grand chamber where the king sat on his golden throne. He didn't waste time on idle pleasantries. "Where did you get this?" he asked, showing her the gold. Said Rumpelstiltskin's daughter. "I thought so," said the king. "Guards, take her to the tower and see what she can do with all that straw." Not much, because she can't spin gold into straw. Rumpelstiltskin's daughter looked around. She saw a pile of straw the size of a bus. I'd like to point out this is in the days before buses, so it's a peculiar little anachronism. She saw a locked door and high windows. She gave a big sigh and began to think. She knew her father could get her out of this pickle, but she had heard stories about the king all her life. One room full of gold would never satisfy him. Her father would be stuck here spinning until there was not an iota of straw left in the kingdom. After a while, she climbed the pile of straw and thought some more. She thought about the poor farmers and about the hungry children with their thin faces and sad eyes. She put the two thoughts together and cooked up a plan. Then Rumpelstiltskin's daughter curled up and went to sleep. Not everybody knows this, but there's a difference between straw and hay. Straw is what's left after you take the grain off. The straw that we get is often barley straw. So they take the barley seeds out, or the wheat, or the rye or whatever. And what's left, the stalks, is what is straw. So usually straw is safe to use in your garden because there aren't seeds left in it. Hay, on the other hand, is much more nourishing. That's what animals eat. They usually don't eat straw because there's not much nourishment in it. It's just the stalk. But hay is the whole thing. And you can have different kinds of hay. You can have Timothy hay, which horses like. You can have Lespedisa hay, which is a word I love. You could have, uh, hay that's got a lot of grass in it. You can have a lot of different kinds of hay. It's what was growing, whatever is in the field. Clover hay, that's what we used to get for the goats, was clover hay. And so that field would have had a lot of clover in it. And it's dried and put into bales, those big rectangular things or those giant round things. And if it's dry, it will keep. And then if it gets wet, it will mold, and that can make an animal very, very sick. So that's a little bit on straw and hay. A lot of people interchange the two, but farmers usually don't, because straw is used for one thing, like bedding, and hay is used for another, like feed. Big difference between a bed and a meal. Just saying. Okay, back to the story. One time I was at the state fair with your grandpa Tom, and I was having a bad case of what they call hay fever. I was sneezing and my eyes were running and I just kept sneezing. My nose was running, and we went into a barn, a building that had hay had been judged, and they had different bales of it, and different kinds. So you could see bales of clover or Lespedisa or Timothy hay or whatever, and then they had blue ribbons on the ones that were the best, and red ribbons on the second best, and white ribbons on the third best, etc. So I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to figure out which one I'm allergic to. Yeah, you see the flaw in the plan. It's not like an instant litmus test. You go up to it and sneeze. No, but I inhaled all these, which just exacerbated it. And then it was just really, there weren't enough Kleenexes in my pockets or anywhere to keep up with the steady stream of sneezes. Then, as we were leaving, it was almost midnight, and the state fair was closing, and we were leaving, and we walked towards the car, and we walked through a dairy barn, and I love cows. I love cows. So we walked through, and I love to watch them and just see them and be near them and all that. And the young guys that were taking care of the cows were just playing frisbee in the aisleway there, and occasionally they would stop and go check on a cow. Well, as we passed, I said, wait a minute, there's a cow that's standing there, but it's got hooves coming out of the back of her. Sure enough, she was giving birth to a baby cow. Right while we were there. And so far, the only thing out were the hooves, the front hooves of the baby cow. And the guy, I thought, well, this can't be that because the guys aren't doing anything. They're just, continue to play frisbee or whatever in the aisle there. Occasionally they'd come check, and then we watched, and sure enough, that's what it was. And we watched for a while. But meanwhile, I have one Kleenex, and my nose is just running. And I thought, but I'm not leaving this because I've never seen a cow being born, a baby calf being born. I mean, I had goats, and I missed both of the births. I just didn't happen to be here at the time, so I really wanted to see this. And we stayed a while, and eventually we saw it being born, and it was just beautiful. It was so amazing. And so matter of fact, probably for everyone but the cow and the baby cow. But it was really something, and we got to see it in between sneezes. So, hay and straw. Back to the story about spinning straw into gold. So she decides she has a plan. She's not going to get her dad to come and rescue her because that would just result in more and more and more problems. And with this greedy king. But the next day, the king was very disappointed. "Where's my gold?" he wanted to know. Let's see what she says. "I'm sure you have rooms full of it upstairs, said Rumpelstiltskin's daughter. And he was right, and she was right. He did. "But I want more," he said. "And I want you to make it for me." "Alas," she said, "I never made gold in my life. But," and here she paused for effect, "I saw my grandfather make it." When the king's face brightened, she added, "He died years ago." "Surely you remember how he did it," cried the king. "Think, think." "Well," she said slowly, "there is one thing I'm sure of. He didn't spin it, he grew it." Oh, she's very smart. She's very smart. Look at the picture on the wall. It looks like him, only it's a lady. There's Whistler's mother, that kind of famous drawing, only it's got the same kind of hair. Can you see? Right in there. The next morning, the king and Rumpelstiltskin's daughter got into his glittering coach with 2 guards up front and 2 guards behind and a huge bag of gold inside. They drove under the portcullis, over the bridge, and out into the countryside. At the first farm they came to, they stopped and sent for the farmer. He was thin and ragged and barefoot. So were his wife and children. "Now tell the farmer he must plant this gold coin in his field, and you will come back in the fall to collect everything it has grown. Tell him you will give him another gold coin for his pains," she whispered. "Do I have to?" the king whined. "Well, I don't know," she said. "That's how my grandfather always did it." "Okay," said the king, "but this better work." He gave the farmer 2 gold coins, and they hurried on to the next farm. By the end of the week, he had covered the entire kingdom. It's a good plan, but it doesn't feel like these poor people can live very well on 2 coins. But she has a plan. All through the summer, the king was restless. "Is it time yet?" he would ask. "Is the gold ripe?" "Wait," said Rumpelstiltskin's daughter. Finally, August came and went. "Now," she said, "now you can go and see what has grown in the fields." So once again, they piled into the glittering coach with 2 guards up front and 2 guards behind, and brought along wagons to carry the gold and a lot more guards to protect it. At the first farm, as they neared the first farm, the king gasped with joy. The field shone in the morning sun. "Gold!" he cried. "No," said Rumpelstiltskin's daughter, "something better than gold." "How can anything be better than gold?" said the king. "It's wheat," she said. "You can eat it. You can't eat gold." Before the king could start turning purple, the farmer and his family came running toward the carriage. In their arms they carried baskets of wheat and barley and apples and green beans and pumpkins and corn and I don't know what all. They piled it into the wagon and kissed the king's hand, grinning ear to ear. I can promise you that nothing like that had ever happened to the king before. "Well," he said sheepishly, "maybe there will be gold at the next place." This book is good. I don't know what's going to happen. But we're going to read it in part 2. We're at 14, almost 15 minutes. We'll finish it in part 3, not part 2. Okay, sweetie pie, I love you to bits. More coming soon.